Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be a slightly different video than what I've been doing recently, of course. Lately I haven't been uploading too much onto the channel. I've only been able to get out about 2 videos a week, and the reason for that being is that, if you don't know, I am doing my A-levels this year, and so I've just been quite busy with doing work recently, to be honest, so I've not had as much time to make videos as I would have liked, but hopefully we'll be getting back on track to making a couple more videos now. And so I have quite an interesting concept for a video today as well. As we are quite a way into the season now, of course, we are now in December, of course. What I thought I'd do for this video is rank how I think each club in the Championship has done so far this season. So obviously this is going to be a very opinionated video and is, it's based on my opinion really, but what I would be very interested to know actually is what have you guys made of your club's season so far, and also as well, who do you think are the clubs who have underachieved this season and who is overachieving so far? I'd be interested to know. So obviously we're going to be doing the proper way of ranking teams, you know, A, B, C, D, E, etc, etc, and we're going to be giving one to each team so far in the Championship. We'll start at the bottom of the Championship and then we will work our way up. So what I myself am basing these ratings on is a couple of things really. Number one is going to be the team's season expectations. So at the start of the season, where were these teams predicted to finish? You know, I'm not going to batter a team like Burton Albion for not being top of the Championship because they weren't expected to be there at the start of the season. We're also going to be looking at how much they spent in the transfer window. That's going to be a factor, how well they're playing, and just in general where they are in the table. So if you guys do go on to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, let's get into some of these ranks. So coming in at the bottom of the Championship is of course Burton Albion, and for Burton, I'm going to go ahead and give them a D for their season so far. Now, that's not the worst ranking that we're going to get in this video, but of course, with them currently rooted to the bottom of the Championship, it's hard for me to give them more than that, really, of course. They were expected to be around the bottom of the Championship, you know, at the start of the season, no offence to Burton, but so far this season, I'm not seeing as many of the characteristics that I saw from this Burton side last season, you know. I think they've struggled with scoring goals this season especially, and that's something they need to work on. And then currently sat in 23rd in the Championship, we of course have Sunderland, and for Sunderland so far this season, I'm going to give them an E. They have been bad so far this season. Considering at the start of the season, you know, I was going back the other day actually and looking over my prediction video from the start of the season, and you'd be very surprised as to how many people were actually predicting Sunderland to finish in the top 6 this season, which is pretty baffling from my point of view, but for them to be finding themselves in the relegation zone, it is just not good enough, you know. You look at the wage bill that Sunderland's going to have for this season, considering they were playing in the Premier League last year and they've had such a fall from grace. They've of course sacked their manager Simon Grayson, got Chris Coleman in now, yet to win at home all season, and it is just a mess at the moment at Sunderland, and of course in real trouble of relegation. So for them, I'm giving them an A. Then just above them in the table is Birmingham, and similar to Sunderland, I'm also going to go ahead and give them an E. And the reason I'm going to give Birmingham an E is because, I mean, just look at their transfer window they had. They spent a lot of money and it all looks like it's been for nothing so far, of course. They have sacked a manager this season. They sacked Harry Redknapp earlier on in the season, and since Steve Cottrell's come in, not much has really changed from my point of view. And you know, they spent 15 million in the summer, and pretty much all of their new signings haven't made any impact. You know, you look at how good Jota was last season at Brentford. He's been a shadow of his former self at Birmingham this year. Harley Dean as well has just been an absolute catastrophe at the back. So Birmingham this season, not being good at all, they get an E. Then the side currently sat just above the relegation zone is Bolton Wanderers, and for Bolton, I'm going to go ahead and give them a C+, of course. I'm basing this ranking over all of the season so far, so it's not just current form, it's the whole of the season. And Bolton lately, they haven't been doing too bad, you know. For the first month or so of the season, they really were rooted to the bottom of the Championship, but in fairness to Bolton, they have managed to go on a nice bit of form recently and climb their way up the Championship. And so, you know, they were expected to be around about this point in the table, you know, with the transfer embargo in the last transfer window and everything like that. It was always going to be a bit of a struggle for them, but so far they've shown they will compete this year. Then coming in at 20th, we then have Hull City, and Hull are, I'm afraid it's got to be another side that I'm just going to give an E to for their season so far. Am I being too harsh with these ratings? I'm not so sure, of course. Hull, another team who have sacked their manager, of course. Slutsky got the sack the other day, and not really too surprising, you know, they find themselves in a pretty perilous position in the Championship at the moment. Another Premier League team last season, and of course, they did have a bit of a fire sale in the transfer window. You know, a lot of their big names were leaving, but despite that, they've still got a decent squad, you know. Players going forward like Jared Bowen and Grosicki, of course, Abel Hernandez, who's been out injured for the majority of the season. They should be doing a lot better than where they are currently in the table, of course. Their defensive issues are really what they need to sort out. They've already conceded 37 goals in the Championship, which that's just not good enough. Barnsley, I'm going to go ahead and give a C for their season so far. They've not been brilliant so far, but they've not been catastrophic to really being dragged into that bottom 3 of the Championship, of course. Their latest run in the Championship, they've actually lost 4 games in a row now, so if I was basing this on recent form, it may be a little bit lower, but over the course of the Championship, we did actually see, towards the start of the season, Barnsley picked up some decent results. You know, they had that 3-0 victory against Sunderland and that 3-1 against Millwall. They seem to be the standouts in my head for Barnsley, and on their day, they can be a decent side. QPR is the side up next, and for QPR, I'm going to go ahead and give them a C-. It's been a little bit of a disappointing season so far, in my opinion, for QPR. With some of the expectations that I know quite a few QPR fans had at the start of the season, they've not really been able to deliver on them so far, and I know that Ian Holloway is coming under increasing pressure with his QPR job at the moment, and it's understandable why. I mean, they're yet to win away from home so far this season, which of course is going to be a bit of a disappointment, but some of the more positive factors for QPR, I think Luke Freeman's been very good for them this season, and of course they did get 2 fantastic home wins over both high-flying Wolves and Sheffield United, and their home form hasn't been awful. Millwall are the team currently sat in 17th in the Championship, and for Millwall, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B+ for their season so far. I know a lot of people were anticipating Millwall to be finishing rock bottom of the Championship, actually. You'd be surprised by how many people were predicting that, but so far this season, I don't think they're yet to be in the bottom 3. They've been very good so far this season, especially their home form. They've been very solid, and quite a few players have made the step up quite comfortably to playing Championship football, and some of their standout results so far this season, you know, that 3-1 victory last time against Sheffield United was a great result for them. Norwich are a team which really do baffle me this season, and for Norwich, I'm going to go ahead and give them a C. So far this season, in my opinion, it's been a bit of a mediocre season for Norwich, really, and if I was judging this on how good every team was to watch, Norwich wouldn't be very high in my list. No offence to Norwich fans, I just don't think the football they're playing at the moment, it's not very stimulating. I think that's fair to say, and which is a shame, really, because they do have some great players going forward. You know, you think of the likes of Maddison, Pritchard, Houlihan, Oliveira. They've got the players there, but they're just not really firing on all cylinders at the moment. And Daniel Farke as well. Norwich fans, what's your opinion of him at the moment? Fulham are a side currently sat in 15th in the Championship, and for them, I'm also, and you know what, I'm going to give them a C-. Actually. I've been quite underwhelmed by Fulham's performances so far this season, and Fulham are a really baffling side to me because they have shown glimpses of absolute brilliance so far this season and just what they're capable of going forward, but they've been far too inconsistent and they've drawn way too many games, you know. Considering how good they were at the tail end of last season, for them to be currently sat in 15th, it's not been a great season for them so far. Same for Reading as well, they're currently sat in 14th. I'm also going to give them a C- for their season so far. Now, judging it off their recent form in the Championship, they have the capabilities to turn this around, really, and get a solid, you know, a solid rest of the season, really. You know, they were awful at the start of the season, but in fairness to Jaap Stam, he seems to have found the formula to start turning around their form. Last season they did manage to hit the heights of reaching the playoff final. I can't see them doing the same this season. Nottingham Forest are the side currently sat in 13th, and for them and their season, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B. And I mean, Nottingham Forest are probably the most bipolar team in the Championship at the moment. They're completely all or nothing with their performances. They're yet to draw a game this season, and when you consider where they were last season and they were fighting it out at the bottom of the table, I don't see that being the case this season. I think they had a pretty solid transfer window, and so for that, they have the capabilities to do better than they already are, but it's been a solid season for them. Then slap bang in the middle of the Championship, we do then find Sheffield Wednesday, and for Sheffield Wednesday, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a D+. And Sheffield Wednesday, probably one of the most disappointing sides so far this season in the Championship, in my opinion at least. Wednesday, they have the capabilities within that squad to go on and really push up the Championship, but Carlos Carvalhal, is it time for him to go at Wednesday? Wednesday fans, I'd be interested to know what you guys have to say about that. Really, I get the impression that things are just becoming a little bit stale at Wednesday. They've drawn a lot of games this season and they just need a bit more of a spark really, and I personally think that a change in management might see that. Brentford, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B for their season so far. On the whole, it's been quite a solid one really. Of course, at the start of the season, they just couldn't buy a win, which was quite disappointing really, because that really did hold them back. Since then, they did manage to go on a great run of form at one point in the season, and on their day, they are probably one of the best sides to watch in the Championship. Considering in the transfer window as well, they lost some of their key players from last season in both Harley Dean and Jota, both going to Birmingham. They've not really struggled without them so far, and going forward, they can be brilliant. My team, Preston, of course, currently sat in 10th in the Championship. I'm also going to go ahead and give us a B for our season so far. I'd say we're around about where I expected us to be at this point in the season really, of course. We have been pretty hampered with injuries, which is it's so annoying really, because we were on such a brilliant run at one point, you know, pushing in the playoffs, but since then we did manage to tail off a little bit, but recently we have picked our form up, so I'm hoping that if we can have a solid January transfer window, we may be able to push up the Championship even more. Then to the side sat above Preston, we then have Middlesbrough currently in 9th, and for Middlesbrough, I'm going to go ahead and give them a D-. I've been very underwhelmed by Middlesbrough so far this season, and the only reason I'm not going to give them lower than a D- is because they still have the potential to reach the playoffs. You know, they're not that far away from them, but Middlesbrough I've been very disappointed with. In the transfer window, they spent 50 million, around about that mark, and to be playing such a bland style of football and to be really lacking anything in that squad, it's been such an underwhelming one for them so far this season. Gary Monk, I don't think knows how to get the best out of these players, and I know a lot of Middlesbrough fans aren't happy with him at the moment, and that's understandably so, you know. A lot of people were expecting Middlesbrough to go ahead and win the league this season, but at this point, in December, they're already 18 points behind Wolves, who are currently top of the Championship. So for Middlesbrough, I'm going to give them a D-. Then to the side, sat in 8th in the Championship, that is of course Leeds United. For Leeds, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B-. Now for Leeds, it's been a fairly steady season on the whole for them so far this season. At the start of the season, you know, quite a few Leeds fans were maybe thinking that they could go on and push on for automatic promotion. You know, they were rolling some teams over at the start of the season, but they did hit a bit of a rocky patch in their season, and since then they managed to put up a couple of decent performances, and so on the whole they've been solid, and they probably will push and be in and around this part of the table come the end of the season. Ipswich in 7th, I'm going to go ahead and give a B+ to. On the whole, Ipswich have been quite an impressive side this season. They of course got off to a remarkable start. They had a bit of a collapse in the middle, but since then they've managed to recover their form, and I've got to be honest, I was very doubtful of Ipswich at the start of the season. Of course, last year Tom Lawrence was their main man, who was of course on loan to them. They lost him and I thought they may struggle this year, but in fairness to them, they did very well in the transfer window, bringing in players like Martin Wycorn, who's been excellent for them. Joe Garner as well goes a bit underappreciated in my opinion in the Championship as a whole. He's not necessarily got the most goals for Ipswich, but his overall play has been very positive for them in grabbing assists and setting up goals and stuff like that. So for Ipswich, yeah, I'll give it a B+. Good season so far. Then as we do move into the teams in the playoffs, first of all we do have Derby County, and for Derby I'm going to go ahead and give them a B+, of course. If you cast your mind back to the start of the season, Derby weren't really brilliant. For the first 5 or 6 games in the Championship, not really was going on there, but as soon as their forward players like Vidra, David Nugent and Tom Lawrence started to get a connection connection with each other and started to really play some flowing football going forward. They've been brilliant, and they have been on a great run in the Championship lately, which has seen them get into the playoffs. And on their day, I think that forward line of Derby can take down anyone, and defensively, they've been pretty solid this season. And then we do move on to Aston Villa. Now, for Aston Villa, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B for their season so far, of course. That's not bad. It's been a solid season for Villa so far. You know, considering how bad they were at times last season, this year they have shown a considerable improvement. The only reason I'm not going to give them higher than a B and not going to give them an A is because they've not really challenged the top two so far this season, which I know a few people were expecting them to, but in all fairness to Aston Villa, they have been missing their key man going forward in Jonathan Kodjia. He's been injured for pretty much all of the season so far, and they've done pretty well to replace him so far. You know, Albert Adoma, what a player he's been so far. Then we do move on into the top four, and coming in first of all, we do have Sheffield United, and I mean, come on, I have to give them an A for their season so far, of course. Lately, their last 3 or so performances haven't been brilliant. They've managed to tail off a little bit, but let's not take anything away from them. They were playing in League One last season, and they've managed to take the Championship by storm, really, you know. I just don't understand how good Leon Clarke has been for them so far this season. He's been having a real purple patch for them, and in fairness to them, fair play, you know, they're not a team which has spent a lot of money in the transfer windows. They built this squad up the right way, and their manager has done absolute wonders with them. Then we do have Bristol City, and Bristol City are another side which I'm going to go ahead and give them an A for their season so far. They have been brilliant so far, Bristol City, and a fantastic side to watch as well. Some of their football going forward, especially with some of their players linking up, is an absolute joy to watch. Bobby Reid has been an absolute revelation so far this season with the amount of goals he's been able to grab, and probably one of my most enjoyable things about Bristol City's season so far is the GIFs that they upload to Twitter when they score a goal. They are pretty spectacular, so Bristol City, I'm giving them an A. And then second in the Championship, we do of course have Cardiff, who are still battling it out in second place and looking to catch Wolves at the top of the Championship. But in my opinion, what I've been so impressed by with Cardiff is that, you know, I was anticipating Cardiff to have a good season this year, but they've had a lot of injuries this year, and despite having those injuries, they've still, you know, not made any excuses for themselves, and they're still pushing up the Championship. At home this season, they've been absolutely unstoppable, and in fairness to Neil Warnock, you know, he inherited this side last season when they were sat in the relegation zone, so for him to get such a quick turnaround with this Cardiff squad is just, you know, a credit to him, really. And then coming in first in the Championship, we of course do have Wolves, and I mean, I'm just going to have to give them an A star for their season so far. I mean, so far this season, they have just been blowing other teams out the water, and it has been, they are brilliant to watch as well on their day, you know. They're capable of carving anyone open, especially with their attacking players. But what I've been so impressed by, you know, a lot is thrown about, you know, Wolves' way this season in terms of they've spent a lot of money and all that stuff like that, but their loan players have been on another level for them so far this season. You know, if you consider it, Jota, Bolly and Bonatini are all on loan deals this season, which is just remarkable. And I know they have spent quite a bit of money, but that's no guarantee of success. You know, you just look at how Middlesbrough are doing at the moment, or even Birmingham, who are sat, you know, at the bottom of the Championship, really. Money's no guarantee of success, but Wolves really have made it work this season, and what I will say above all else is they do show a lot of ambition. I think that's pretty clear to see, and I'll go ahead and say it, I wouldn't be too surprised really if this Wolves side could actually survive in the Premier League with the current squad they've got at the moment, which is a question I'm going to pose to you guys. If this current Wolves side was in the Premier League, so with no more transfers, with the current squad they've got, would they survive in this year's Premier League? Let me know down below. So guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So this was of course all for a bit of fun, so I would love to know your guys' opinions on what you think of your team's performance so far this season. So of course tomorrow guys, that will be when my Championship predictions do come out, so make sure you do stick around for that video. But apart from that guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, it is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure to check out all the other links in the description down below, and make sure you drop me a follow on Twitter, as I always tweet before I upload a video. Therefore you'll never miss a video ever again guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.